Barbara Mallory Caraway, Democratic candidate for the 30th Congressional District. Thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Thank you, and I'm happy to be back with you.
Good to see you. So you've run for Congress before. Why are you running again now?
Well, the difference is it's an open seat. Obviously, the person I challenged early on was Eddie Bernice Johnson. She had been in the community for many, many years, but this is very different because with Jasmine Crockett running for the Senate, this created an open opportunity.
And why should Democratic primary voters vote for you over Pastor Haynes, who's a very popular figure, obviously, in the district?
Well, Barbara Mallory Caraway has held many positions. I was in the state legislature. I was on the Dallas City Council. And so just to start with, I bring legislative experience that either he nor the other candidate has. I always run a grassroots campaign. What's also similar is that I actually started my political career because of my popularity on a gospel radio station, Heaven 97 KHVN. So voters should look at me and vote for me for my legislative experience, my willingness and my continuance and the consistency for running for this position shows my dedication that I am serious about representing the voters of District 30. District 6 was in my city council race. District 30 as well as the state of Texas. My experience, my dedication, my tenacity, and my sincere desire to serve the district. I bring a set of skills that neither one of those candidates have, and that's the ability to bridge together people of different backgrounds, socioeconomic opportunities, as well as the opportunity to serve on a higher level.
Talk to me about that because, you know, when you have the legislative experience, what does that and what did that allow you to do? And if you go to Congress, obviously it's a totally different level. Before you were at the local level, you're at the state level. If you're elected, you'll be at the congressional level, the federal level. So how does that help you go to Washington?
Well, number one, on the city council, at that point you have 14 single member council members and you have the mayor. In the legislature, of course, you have individual districts, but that process is very similar to the national process. You've got to research your bill, you've got to introduce your bill, it's got to go through committee, it's got to be voted on, you've got to rally around people to support your bill. So the legislative experience on the state level and the federal level are really similar. And what's even more important about that is that you really on the city council level, they have legislative packages and they have priorities that they want the federal government, particularly their representatives, to consider. And I know that because as a former city council member, we had a legislative priority list that we went to Washington to lobby on behalf of those passages for funding for those particular processes. So that legislative experience, the process is the same. You know, draft your bill, introduce your bill, take it to the committees. Hopefully you can get support for your committees. It goes up for a vote. Now, the similarities also is that once it leaves the House, then you've got to have a sponsor in the Senate. And then, of course, just as if you have with the governor signing off on your bill, then you also would have to have the president who would support your bill. So that process is the same. On the local level, you can get your city council members to support it. You still have to introduce, not like a bill, but you have other type of priorities that you want to go through committee. It has to go to a vote. And then of course, it's not as if the mayor has to sign off on it. You just have to get the majority of the city council members to support your initiative.
So if you are to win the primary, win the general election, what are your top priorities if elected?
Well, the interesting thing about it is that they are similar to and same as it has been for the last few years. People, and I think the word affordability, and I think that that's really a good, just kind of to put it all in a nutshell. But what I have been fighting for not only as a city council member, as a member of the state legislature, I've always fought for better jobs, I've always fought for health care. I've always fought for a better education. I have worked as a political consultant to make sure that people have an opportunity, and that's part of my business as a small business owner, but I have partnered with other bodies to promote educational opportunities. So healthcare, housing, you've got your education, they are still the same. But what is different is the atmosphere by which the vitriol and the fact that people don't want to support. You know, you got the top heavy and the bottom is suffering. And so trying to balance those dollars to make sure that everyone can benefit from this wonderful country that we live in. And so those are the priorities that I have fought for and will continue to fight for.
As far as like legislative action, a bill, is there a bill that you have in mind that you would strive to pass if you get to Congress as it relates to affordability, what you mentioned?
Well, there certainly is, and it really has to do with how are we going to make sure that the tax breaks, I will support that. I know that's an initiative that people have gone through. When I was in the legislature, electricity, I really ran on the high cost of electricity. So I want to make sure that people can have an opportunity to heat and cool their homes. We have education. We see that the institution of the Department of Education trying to absolve that. So I will work to make sure that education, introducing bills to absolve that, not absolve, to make sure that it is still on track and to make sure that it's solvent. We're losing our institutions. So that is something that I will continue to work on. And in particular, as it relates to my district, this district is 766,000 people. As part of the new redistricting effort, it now includes parts of Arlington, which is an additional new 200,000 people. You have Grand Prairie. We're going to backtrack to Cedar Hill, Duncanville, DeSoto, Lancaster, Glen Heights are still a big chunk of Dallas. So how is it that we bring infrastructure to solidify particularly new and emerging communities and housing, but also existing communities who see a consistent deterioration with their housing. So I want to introduce bills that will allow home ownership, continuation of home ownership, not just a continuation of ownership, but to be able to support and provide funding. We've seen not only on the state level, but the federal level with small businesses. It is harder to be a small business owner these days than it was even a year ago. And so supporting small businesses is also because they are the bread and butter of our economy. There are so many things, Jack, that we are faced with in our country today that we didn't even experience more than 2 years ago. So we have to look at public safety. The people are looking at ICE and how we're going to rein in ICE to go back to its original mission rather than being a vigilante organization right now, go back to, it was just established in 2003. So we're just seeing this escalation where people are fearful about where we are as a country and where they stand as it relates to this promise, the preamble of the Constitution of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so that is what I'm going to fight for, to make sure that people have an opportunity to not only live but thrive in the United States of America.
So let me ask you what you just said. So if I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You called ICE a vigilante agency?
Well, right now, it is clear that what is happening is that American citizens are being murdered in the streets. People are afraid. They have masks on. People don't know who they are. Citizens don't know who they are. We really don't know if they're up to par to be trained to go out and to do the work that they have been tasked to do by the Trump administration. And so I'm saying a vigilante because we don't know who they are. They're in hiding and they are pulling guns and literally gunning down people in the street. I know that there is a push to abolish ICE. I am not there yet because I think that it needs to revert back to its original mission, and I think with oversight that we will be able to accomplish that. It wasn't, and it was merged with another organization that was over border control. So, of course, again in 2003, then it was merged to become this more of a robust agency. And up until the last year, we didn't hear all of this about ICE killing people. They may have had some other issues that I'm not aware of, but that is why I use that word.
So, and you don't want to abolish it. You said you just want to revert it back to its original mission.
Correct.
And what do you make of the situation at the border? Far fewer people have come in illegally, and is that something you want to see continue? And do you think that will still be able to be accomplished if you are reverting ICE back to its original mission?
Well, it wasn't ICE necessarily. They are now, I read that they are now tasked that they're going to go to the border. But keep in mind that you had, particularly where the most controversial interest was at the southern border. But at least you had a processing center where people who entered the country illegally, you had lawyers, you had a system where they would have to see if they could be processed to another court hearing to see if they are warranted with either staying here. And there was a policy that they go back to their country. I know that President Trump initiated that. Mr. Biden continued some of it. And because I think that you're seeing some of the decrease of border crossings, not only because of the fear, people are afraid to come, they don't believe that they will get a fair opportunity, and the fact that, you know, it's just, is it worth it? Is it worth to come to the land of the free to lose your life? But the processing centers, there weren't as many judges that were hired. There are no longer those processing centers, so I think that's additionally part of the reason that you are seeing the decrease in the border. It's very dangerous, and people are just not willing to take that chance.
You talked about health care before, and I'm wondering, do you support a single payer system where it would be like just a government system, universal health care? Some like the idea of Medicare for all. Where are you on that?
Well, that is a very interesting question, because I even saw in the paper the other day where some healthcare institutions or hospitals, they're abandoning it altogether because of the when I say abandon it, even trying to be a part of any type of network, because it is so cumbersome. And so they're creating their own networks where people will be able to come, and I get offers all the time to be a part of a network where you pay into their system. So I continue to support Medicare. In fact, I think that there should be an increase with Medicare because of inflation, and you still have to pay for it. People think that you're getting some for free. You're not. You're actually paying for insurance through Medicare. I support Medicaid, the fact that some people actually need it. So if you qualify, if you have a legitimate reason to get Medicare, that's fine. I think too that what has happened with our system is that you have shareholders. A lot of it is privatized. So you have to get back to your shareholders. And in addition to that, you may be paying one price for even your prescription medications. This year, you may pay $22. Next year, it could go up to $48, $100. So I think that is where the problem is that there are no reins to be able to moderate, except for the ACA. I support the ACA, and that's, believe it or not, that's still expensive. It's not as if you're not having health care at all. So right now, honestly, I don't know when we will get to the universal system, quite frankly, the political willingness to do that, but I would support an opportunity for that to happen. But right now, all those options for me, as I see it, are on the table.
And you talked about the Affordable Care Act. There's obviously been a lot of discussion over whether the enhanced tax credits should have been extended for the people who are on the Affordable Care Act. What do you think about that idea?
I think they should have, because it's still not cheap. That's what people need to understand. If you are getting because before the ACA, because of pre-existing conditions, you couldn't get health care at all. And then when you bought it, then it was almost as if you have to reach such a high threshold, and your deductibles can still be exorbitant. So it's really a cushion that you will be able to, when I say you, individuals who decide to go that way, that you have an opportunity to buy into a healthcare system. And so the subsidies are helping to subsidize or pay for that, because it's still expensive. So I support the extension of the ACA.
What do you say to those who say, there should be caps on income? Because there were reports that people who make $150,000 a year, get these enhanced credits. The Affordable Care Act, these policies are, very cheap. If $5, whatever. Should there be income, levels, like if you're at $150,000, your level of assistance will be less than somebody who makes $50,000 per se.
So Jack, you actually know someone who's paying $5 for the annual
Well, this is what I've read. These are the
Okay.
reports that I've read because of the enhanced credits. There are other reports out there that say there's a lot of fraud in this, that these insurance companies sign people up, but they're not real people. And these people don't even necessarily know that they have this policy out there.
Well, that's like saying, as the old adage, throwing baby out with the water, because unfortunately it is those people who take abuse of the system that make it harder for the others. But believe you me, that there are always times when that will be disclosed. You have an opportunity to investigate. And I'm sure that there is a way to do that. Some companies, some individuals have been found to be guilty of Medicare, Medicaid fraud. So eventually that would catch up with them. But I don't want to punish the good people because you have some bad apples out there. So no, I am not concerned about that, because the system itself would be able to take care of that, and I'm not going to support punishing people because other people are not honest.
Where are you on tariffs? Obviously, they've been very controversial. What do you think?
Well, here's the deal, and here's the bottom line. Congress needs to act. There are three legislative bodies of our government: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. It is Congress's responsibility to set tariffs. Now, what President Trump has masterfully done, he's really intimidated even the party in power not to question that. And as you know, and our viewers know, that has been challenged before the Supreme Court. Tariffs, and we talk about affordability, tariffs have made the cost of goods more expensive, because the idea is that these other countries are going to pay the tariffs and you're going to have all these decrease in prices, and that is not true. The buyer pays those taxes, which means there's passed on to the consumer. So the president doesn't have the authority. Congress has abdicated its responsibility as the legislative branch, but I think that's going to change too, because I think that people are literally exhausted. You live every day not knowing what's coming next. And so when things calm down, when the Democrats take control in the next legislative session, I think that some things are going to shift.
And let me ask you, we saw on January 3rd, the U.S. captured the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, brought him to the United States to stand trial on federal drug trafficking charges. What do you think of that? Did you oppose that or support that?
Well, it is alarming, because when you see, and they don't want you to believe what you see, but when you see these ships being blown up, they're not even ships, they're boats being blown up in the ocean under
the drug boats.
Well, under the disguise that they are trafficking drugs. There was no one left to tell the story, so we really don't know what was going on. So this initial mission was to confiscate and to get control of the illegal drug trafficking into the United States. And then, one thing about President Trump, he's eventually going to tell you what his intentions are and what his goal is. So then we learn it's not about drug trafficking, it's about regime change. And then it became about confiscating, they are confiscating the ships that carry oil, 7 of them so far. So again, we don't have, the president should be given the authority to do that. Congress has abdicated its powers. And so Maduro's in the country. He is going to be on trial. We'll see how all of that goes. But we don't have the authority to do that. And the scary thing about it is that not necessarily with Venezuela, but we're creating aggression with our allies, So to me, that's also scary.
What do you think should happen in Venezuela now?
That's to be determined, because we really don't know. Now, what I read is that his second, the person,
the vice president,
woman, is now in charge, and so that's to be determined. I don't know what's going to happen in Venezuela, because with this new regime, we really don't know how they're going to respond. I think right now it's settled. It was said, President Trump said this person is one of his allies in terms of going along with what he would like to see happen in Venezuela. But it's really not about the government. It's about how will the people respond. And I think that that is yet to be determined.
And my last question to you is, do you think President Trump should be impeached?
Well, what I would want to consider is the articles of impeachment. What is he being impeached for? Is it an impeachable offense? And once that is determined, once we look at the evidence, and then at that point, I will decide if God blesses me to be a member of Congress and that the people vote me in, I will consider how I'm going to move on that particular issue.
Barbara Mallory Caraway, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.